The owl blinked. "A broken bar you again." Malik didn't know whether to laugh, scream, or just ignore it. So instead, he just stared back, waiting for whatever came next. The crimson owl descended, its massive wings folding gracefully as it landed a few feet from him. "What do you want from me? Why are you here? The owl didn't respond. Of course it was just a bird, but it didn't feel like just a bird. "Not this one." "Don't get any closer." Malik tried to stand, instinctively reaching for his dagger. Unfortunately, his body refused to cooperate. Again, every muscle felt like jelly, shaking to kingdom come. It was what carrying her body, or at least attempting to, had done to him. "Move," he hissed through gritted teeth, his eyes of gold darting between the owl and Jasmine's lifeless form. And yet move he could not. No matter how much he willed himself to. All he could do was watch as it stepped closer. Each one was slow, as if it understood that he couldn't stop it. But just when it was just a talon away from her body, it paused. The owl tilted its head as if studying her. "Back off." Malik's chest heaved. "I said back off." The owl didn't. It leaned down, its massive beak hovering dangerously close to her head. "No, stop." His screams filled the forest, raw, but the owl ignored him. Clack. Its beak snapped shut. He winced, bracing himself for the sickening sound of flesh tearing. But it never came. Instead, there was just a broken bar softness. The owl's beak had clamped onto Jasmine's clothes, not her body. Gently, almost reverently, it lifted her off the ground, her limp form swaying slightly as it rose. "What in the fuck, a broken bar?" Malik blinked, his fury fizzling into pure, dumb confusion. Still, the owl didn't seem to care. It just kept dragging Jasmine toward the grave he dug earlier. The one meant to be her eternal home. He continued to watch as the bird went about its business. It acted like this was somehow the most normal thing in the world. And then, slowly, he felt his strength trickling back into his limbs. Malik wobbled as he got to his feet, legs shaky like a newborn fawn. "Hey, a broken bar," he called out weakly, his voice lacking its earlier venom. The owl ignored him. It was in the middle of a burial and it wasn't about to be distracted. With a kind of gentleness he didn't know a creature that size could have, the bird lowered her body into the grave. It adjusted her like it was tucking her into bed, making sure she rested just right. Malik just stood there, slack-jawed and too stunned to say anything. When it finally finished, the owl turned its glowing eyes on him. For a moment, neither of them moved. They just stared at each other, like two stumbling idiots. Then, it turned back to the grave and began shoving dirt into it with its beak. The sight of this giant, crimson bird doing something so broken bar human stirred something in him. It was weird, almost unsettling, how gentle it was, like it understood what this all meant. For a second, Malik swore he could see Sinbad in the damn thing. Just a flicker. A flicker of the boy he so desperately missed. The way it moved, the carriage show to it was almost too familiar. He'd heard it before, you know. People say when you're grieving, you start seeing the ones you lost in everything and everyone. Or in Malik's case, apparently, a massive owl. Sure, they had the same colored hair and eyes, but still. An owl? It was stupid, he knew it. Just his mind playing tricks on him. But did it really matter? Whether it was his brain throwing memories at him or just some weird cosmic coincidence. He didn't care. It made him pause, just for a second. Made him hesitate a little longer before joining in, scooping up handfuls of dirt with trembling hands. They worked together, man and beast, neither letting out a sound. When the grave was finally filled, Malik sat back, staring at the freshly packed earth. His eyes scanned the ground until they landed on a flat stone nearby. Dragging himself over to it, he picked it up and set it at the head of the grave. Pulling out his dagger, he started carving. Each stroke was rough, jagged, and uneven. But, again, he didn't care. It was enough. Soon, the name, Jasmine, stood out against the pale surface. Her mark on the world. Malik placed the makeshift tombstone at the head of the grave, then crouched down. Jasmine. His lips brushed the cold surface, lingering there for a long moment. Remember me. Remember me. But please. Please forget my fate. The owl moved again, its massive frame lowering until its head came to rest on his back. It was heavy, incredibly so, but he didn't pull away from it. For the first time in what felt like years, he let himself feel the comfort of something, anything. Even if it was this strange, otherworldly bird he couldn't begin to understand. He closed his eyes, his hand trembling as it brushed over its feathers. They weren't what he expected, a softer, warmer in a way that seemed almost impossible for something so eerie. "Thank you." With that, he pulled away, his hand patting it one last time. The owl blinked slowly, tilting its head in that weird, knowing way it had. Like it got it. Like it understood everything he couldn't say, even acknowledging his gratitude. Bewildered, Malik shook his head, stood up, turned, and began walking away. Yet before he left, his gaze fell on Sinbad, who still leaned lazily against the same tree. But then, just as quickly as he was there, he wasn't. In his place, glowing faintly against the bark, were words that twisted the knife in his chest just a little deeper. "You getting used to this, huh?" He blinked, and the words didn't disappear, they only changed. "Just how many more times will it take? Again? When will you learn? When? Tell me. Your little brother, your responsibility." "Again? Maybe Saphira has to die for you to understand. Understand that you are nothing." "Again? Waste, trash, loser, coward, idiot, weakling, liar, fraud, fool, failure, burden, mistake, fake, pathetic, worthless, spineless, nobody, clown, joke, disgrace, wreck, shell, cripple, hollow, nothing, dirt, scrub, dead weight, baggage, mess, wretch, scrap, husk, rot, degenerate, cast off, reject, fluke, stain, muck, defect, pest, stench, ruin, feeble, flea, crutch, outcast, ghost, cretin, dreg, gutter, stump, dullard, smudge, pus." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Am I that bad? Arsehole." Malik waved a hand, dispelling the illusion for good, and continued on his way. He didn't look back. The owl didn't follow. This was their goodbye. Now, the forest was quieter, too quiet. It made him feel like he was the only person left in the world. Jasmine. He told himself not to think. Jasmine. Not to feel. Jasmine. But with every step, her name echoed louder and louder in his head. And so, to quell her screams, he walked faster, busying his mind. Stopping now wasn't an option. Stopping meant remembering, and remembering. It was hell. Capital city of the inside. The Holy Land. Al-Safe Mansion. Huda had essentially lost the plot. A sobbing mess, she sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest. Snot, tears, and whatever else was on her face. Yet, she didn't seem to care, her image an afterthought. The memories. Oh, those damn memories. It pained her to see him so gone, so lost. She knew this to be all her fault, and the projection's only purpose seemed to be her constant reminder of that. It just continued to play out like some twisted joke that she could not block out no matter how hurt she was. Her hands gripped the sheets so tightly they were starting to tear, but that was the last thing on her mind at that moment. She'd seen a lot of things in her long life feel like a lot, sad, depressing, just straight nightmare-inducing. But this was next level. It took the cake and ate it. What? What did he do? Huda felt sick, unintentionally repeating his own question. What did he do to deserve this? She glanced at the projection, eyes landing on Malik for just a moment. Yet even that felt a little too long. A little too hard. It wasn't the burial that broke her, not really. She cared not for Jasmine's death. Sure, it was a sad moment. A really sad moment. One that made her tear up a little, but, as bad as it might sound, that was all. It wasn't what twisted her heart into knots. It wasn't what made her want to scream or collapse or just stop altogether. It was him. Malik. The unshakable, maddening, stupidly noble big brother. He was the one who turned her into this mess. Why? Why even continue? You've done your best. Just leave her. But of course, he didn't. He wouldn't. She knew that much, and that was part of what made it worse, because that same broken sense of responsibility, the one driving him into the ground now, had saved her once. And Sinbad too. At least until a time. For 7 whole days, he'd kept them alive against all odds. 7 days of hell. 7 days where she didn't think she'd make it to the next tower, let alone see the shams rise again. She owed him her life. She owed him twice at that. But damn it, What kind of hypocrite does that make her? To want him to stop, to let go, when he never did so with them. It burned, the contradiction of it. Like swallowing glass and feeling every shard settle in her chest. Here, her logic was nearly non-existent, but when was that really considered in the matter of emotions? Huda wanted him to care less, to let himself breathe for once. But wasn't that what made him Malik? The guy who couldn't stand to let anyone down, even at his own expense? It both made her proud and pissed her off. Idiot. You absolute idiot. Her voice cracked and more tears stung her eyes. She swiped at her face, refusing to let them fall. Always a no. Wait. Huda stood up so fast her head spun. Nope, 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 nope. She started pacing, hands waving like she was arguing with someone. This is not how this ends. Her mind pieced things together faster than her mouth could keep up. That owl, the crimson one, anyone could see that it wasn't just some random monster. That was obvious even to the retarded. But she realized something more. No way. No freaking way. She rushed to her mirror stand, grabbed a cloak, and practically threw it over herself before bolting out the window, flying high up into the dark sky, above the mountainous landscape, nearing the 12 moons. It's still alive. The Holy Palace, the Hall of Records. Noor's guards barely had time to blink before a hidden figure stormed past, her presence a storm in itself. Hey, you canter. One of them started, stepping forward, but he didn't even get to finish. Her pink eyes flashed, sharp as knives, and that was enough to glue his boots to the floor. Whatever sense of duty he had evaporated on the spot. The other guards exchanged a quick, panicked glance, not understanding why she was let go. One of them moved as if to follow, but the first of them grabbed his arm, shaking his head. Not worth it. Huda's steps thundered through the corridors, straight toward the massive double doors leading to the Hall of Records, a place deep within the Holy Palace, once protected by thousands of soldiers. It stored all there was to store about Devil's Moor and beyond, making it the perfect place to hide something, someone, or in this case, a goddamn monster. Decorum and consequences be damned. She needed to confirm the truth. Entering an open area, she skidded to a stop and turned left, just before the doors. They towered above her, glowing faintly with lead ether seals. Open it. Her command echoed through the chamber, filled with enough authority to make even the most stubborn bureaucrat flinch. Two attendants stationed nearby froze like critters caught in a rock's sight. They exchanged wide-eyed, frantic looks, their hands hovering nervously over their swords. Lady Huda, I apologize, but the Hall of Records is strictly off-limits. The Light Empress herself or Dreader. I don't give a damn what Noor ordered. Open the doors, or I'll rip them off myself. My lady, please. This section is restricted even for a... Did I stutter? She stepped closer, her fists slamming into the heavy doors with a deafening bang. The ether seals flickered, making the attendants flinch. I am the former Sultan's niece. You will open this door, or do you dare bar entry to the Magi who once owned this fucking palace? Tell me. Do you want to explain to Noor why the planet's sword just leveled half the Holy Palace? The attendants paled. One of them swallowed hard and nodded quickly, scrambling toward the seals. No, Lady Huda. We understand. Right away. The other hesitated, his eyes scanning her figure. She raised a single brow, daring him to delay further. Right away, Lady Huda. He nearly tripped over his own feet in his haste to join his partner. With trembling hands, the two attendants began to input their ether into the seals, forming a precise pattern in the air, one that only they knew. The symbols glowed brighter, interlocking like the gears of a gigantic clock. And just as the last symbol clicked into place, the doors groaned in protest, seemingly ancient mechanisms grinding to life. Slowly, they began to part, revealing a dark hall. Huda didn't wait for them to finish. The moment there was enough space, she shoved her way through. Flash. In response to her entry, the lamps that lined both walls had returned to life. Wow. Her breath caught in her throat as she took in the sight before her. The Hall of Records was massive. Seriously, massive. Even bigger than the Sultan's hall itself. It made no sense structurally, but that didn't confuse her. She expected the place to have spatial runes installed, just not this many. Rows upon rows of shelves stretched out so far, There might have needed a whole army of scribes just to map it out. Scrolls, grimoires, holy relics, books, weird glowing artifacts, pretty much everything short of a talking skull on a stick was crammed in there. Big Brother really worked hard. Back then, Uncle Cyrus had only half of the stuff in here. Cuda wandered deeper, boots echoing on the tiled floor. Okay, Cuda, where would he hide his pet? Huh? The answer came quick. Magical secret compartment. Probably. Her gaze bounced from dusty shelves to glittering display cases. Some held ordinary-looking items of vases, old coins, a busted sword, but others, weird stuff, like a jar with a swirling silver mist inside or a set of golden scales that hummed. Then she saw it. A little crimson owl statue. It sat on a pedestal, tucked away in one of the side alcoves like it didn't want to be found but still couldn't help showing off. Its pink eyes gleamed faintly, and the feathers? The detail was crazy good, lifelike, almost like someone had carved it for years and then gave it a soul. Oh my god, look at you. Cuda grinned, making a beeline for it. So cute. Before she could go to town on it, she bent down, squinting to see if it had a plaque or something similar. Nope, no runes, no fancy mechanisms, no signs screaming, "Caution, don't touch," which meant a broken bar. Totally safe, right? Cuda reached out, running her fingers over its feathered back. Soft looking but not actually soft. You're lucky. A broken bar, the perfect mix of cute and useless. Love it. She gave it a little pat for good measure and laughed softly when its head wobbled slightly under her hand. Oh no, look at you. You've got a bobblehead thing going on. This is amazing. And then because self-control was for people who didn't just storm through forbidden doors. She ruffled its feathers again, pulling it closer like it was her new favorite pet. Click. Her hand froze mid-pat. Oh! The wall behind the pedestal shuddered, groaning like it hadn't moved in a decade. Stone scraped against stone as a hidden passageway slowly revealed itself, dark but also inviting. Cuda blinked, then she grinned. Well, looks like I've found that magical secret compartment. She glanced at the statue, still tilted forward in its awkward pose. Good work, little buddy. You're my favorite now. And without wasting another second, she stepped into the hidden corridor. Lights lit up like earlier, and there you really are alive. There, in the center of the room, sat in a golden cage, was the crimson owl. It was massive, even bigger up close than it had seemed in the projection. Its glowing pink eyes turned to her like two pools of sorrow. Tears dripped steadily from them, carving faint trails into the gold beneath it. Cuda's chest tightened and her merry mood was almost immediately gone. She approached slowly, her voice trembling as she whispered, "You're still alive." The owl didn't move, didn't even acknowledge her presence. It just sat there, its gaze fixed on the darkness ahead as if it were lost in memories too painful to bear. I don't know what you are, being able to live this long, changing your size and color. I don't know why you're still here either. But one thing's obvious. Those words made it finally acknowledge the intruder, turning its head to face her. You cared about him, didn't you? She stepped closer. About Jasmine, about Malik. Loved them even. The owl blinked slowly, another tear rolling down its cheek. If you cared. Cuda swallowed hard. Then help me. Help him. Because if we don't do something, he's going to die. For a moment, the owl didn't move. Then, almost imperceptibly, it nodded. Her heart skipped a beat. Good. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Sultan's hall. Dot. 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 It was suffocatingly silent. Truly. The audience felt unable to speak. Every single pair of eyes stared at the projection. Malik's anguished figure still fresh in their minds, his trembling hands, his powerless body, his quiet mind. The way his lips had barely managed to form those final words. Remember me, but forget my fate. What did he even mean by that? It was such a simple thing to say, yet it hit like a boulder. Was he asking them to honor his memory but let go of the misery that came with it? To see him as more than just some tragic figure? Or maybe he didn't want to be remembered as the kid who couldn't escape whatever hell had chained him down. Maybe he wanted to be remembered for the fight, not the fall. For the person he was, not the ending he couldn't avoid. It was like he was begging them not to let his life be just another sad story, like he didn't want pity, like he didn't want to be mourned forever. A plea to hold on to the best parts of him, even if the worst was all they could see right now. How could a boy no older than 13 utter such things? The world deemed him a man, but he wasn't. Not really. He was still a boy. On some level, they all realized that. Didn't mean they'd processed it, though. That was another matter entirely. Then there was Jasmine's grave. Her crude gravestone was etched in their memories. Oh, the tragedy. One in its purest form. Oh, the pain. One given shape. What a cruel world his was. Tap. All of a sudden, some Magi in the audience shifted, only slightly. Yet even that faint sound felt like a violation of the moment. Still, no one bothered to reprimand them. Their minds were on him, the Sultan. What could they say? What words could possibly do justice to what they witnessed? No matter who it was, no matter how much they hated him, they all felt somber. Yes, somber, for the lack of a better word. Their minds not that of an author's. Even the blondie couldn't gain pleasure from this. She was enjoying herself at first, but as the blinks went on, as a familiar madness was projected, as a kid was cut up, dissected, another mentally tortured, her joy dissipated. It wasn't fun anymore. It was just sad. And that was something the whole world would likely agree on. Well, that sucked. Then, Azim broke the silence. It was like a dam bursting. Sucked. That was fucking devastating. Are you even human? Don't act like you're unfazed, Sir Azim. They were going to go on and on, letting out all their feelings into him, but then he turned around to face them. The chaos came to an abrupt halt. Words frozen midair. It wasn't the act itself that silenced them. No. Not everyone in the crowd feared him. It was the tears. That was what shut them up. They slipped from his red eyes, one after another. No dramatic sobbing, no anger, just pain spilling down his face. And the worst part? He didn't wipe them away. He didn't try to hide it. He let them fall freely, unashamed. Now, Azim wasn't just their Sultan's right-hander, he was a man. Just a man. And it showed. Those memories looked like they hit him the hardest after Safira, who was already a sobbing mess. Layla had her arms around her, trying her best to comfort her. But it wasn't working much, and she wasn't doing much better either. Unlike Huda, though, the two weren't left alone in their grief. Their respective camps were all around them, whispering reassurances, shielding them from their own emotions becoming a spectacle, their image protected. A stark contrast, for sure. It followed a trend the hero wasn't so fond of. Zafar kept quiet, though. He'd learned better after the last time. Now, he'd wait. The upcoming massacres would do all the talking for him. Besides, even he wasn't about to ruin this moment. The woman was grieving for her lost friend. Only dumbass monsters would disturb her. Are we just gonna ignore the Aluka that buried her like some fucking gravekeeper? But then, of course, the dumbass leader had to ruin it. Everyone else ignored him completely, diving straight back into their own spiraling emotions. Why does everyone he loves die? I don't know what's worse, either fact that the Sultan didn't cry at the end or that I did. He's a tyrant for fuck's sake. Right? Same, brother. Samia broken bar. I mean, I figured she'd die since she's not here with us. Buta. Yeah, didn't think it'd be like this. Though I'm gonna off my past self who thought it was a good fucking idea to watch this. I thought we'd watch something satisfying. Not this. I swear it's like tragedy porn. What did you guys expect? For him to be evil just for the sake of it? There had to be something that twisted him into becoming the Sultan we know. Not really. Shut up. Those are outliers. Well, I understand that there was context. But why a broken bar? Why does a 13-year-old have to keep burying people? What did he do to deserve this? At this point a broken bar. One voice trailed off before muttering bitterly, I'd say it's only fair if he just a broken bar lost it already. Someone groaned. Did you see his face at the end? I've never seen someone look so broken bar. Empty. Yeah. Like he's just done with everything. The chatter continued to build until a deafening crack echoed through the hall. Everyone stiffened a slight bit, mentally readying themselves for combat. Who Isa? Before Zafar could finish his sentence, one of the hall's massive double doors was kicked open with a force that shook the walls. Every head turned to the entrance, hands near their weapons. A gust of wind swept through, heavy, pushing their bodies down a tad. Then they saw it. The Crimson Owl. Like a cute menace from hell, the owl's pink, glowing eyes scanned the hall, sizing up its prey while standing still in the doorway, taking up most of it. Huda was perched on its back, seemingly unbothered by the commotion her arrival caused. "Hey everyone, Tilda." She leaned forward slightly, her face a mix of irritation and barely concealed fury. "The coward is back." Hoot. Their loud voices carried effortlessly over the stunned silence. "Does anyone have a problem with that?" Hoot. Dot. 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 No one answered. Huda smirked. "Didn't think so." The owl took a step forward, its talons clicking against the marble floor. "I see almost everyone already bailed, so I guess none of you mind if we take the front seats, right?" Dot. 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 Still nothing. Even if the place were packed, no one would have protested. Huda was the only one twisted enough to stand within the projection's pain-sharing perimeter for a reason as ridiculous as atoning. Satisfied, she gave the bird a light tap. "Would you move, Mr. Crimson?" It obliged with a nod, its massive form gliding through the parted sea of people. For that long moment, the projection behind them was forgotten. All eyes were on it and Huda, wondering what fresh chaos was about to unfold. Once she reached the front, next to others of similar status, she slid off the bird's back. Her sandals hit the floor with a solid thud, and she gave the crowd a sweeping look, her eyes catching their shocked expressions. Then, with a casual flick of the wrist, she gestured at her new friend. "It ain't the first time you've met this one. I'm sure you've put two and two together by now." Saphira, still sniffling, wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. Her camp, ever attentive, parted without a word to give her an unobstructed view of Mr. Crimson. She blinked, eyes wide as she took it, or rather, him in. "Is that really his pet?" Huda nodded, crossing her arms. "Yep, same one." "Looks like Crimson figured out how to switch up his color and size after meeting my brother." She smirked, gesturing for the owl with both hands. "Anyways, everyone, this is Crimson. Go on, say hi, Crimson." The owl responded on cue, letting out his signature hoot. Saphira's gaze softened as recognition set in. She was sure of it now. This was the same owl she often saw sitting on Malik's shoulder. Only instead of being normal-sized, whatever that meant, and entirely black, it dwarfed humans and was of the brightest colors, matching Elsafe in theme. "And nice to meet you again, Mr. Crimson." The owl blinked slowly, his massive wings rustling as if to acknowledge her greeting. "Crimson?" Azim snorted, clearly unimpressed. "That's the best you could come up with. A bit on the nose, isn't it?" Huda shot him a look so sharp it could have cut stone. "You wanna test how on the nose my friend here can get? Feel free to step closer." He raised both hands, feigning surrender. "Oh no Tilda, I'm good. But I gotta ask, where did you find it?" "Him." "The Hall of Records." "Some hidden chamber." "We talked a little, and we clicked, ain't that right, cutie?" Hoot. "So yeah, guess he liked my vibe." Vibe? "Yeah," she repeated, deadpan. "Vibe." While they went back and forth, a few groups within the crowd began to close in on the owl, each one for a different reason. "Is it really the same bird? Isn't it just a mutated aluka? Ain't it too dangerous to keep it here? Can we pet it?" Him?" Huda raised her hands to quiet the crowd. "Look, Crimson isn't here to hurt Anyania unless I say so. And no, you can't pet him. He's not a barnyard chicken. Besides, he doesn't allow anyone but me to touch him." The owl flared his wings slightly as if agreeing. "Now," Huda continued, throwing away her cloak, and brushing non-existent dust from her dress. "Are we done talking, or do I need to start charging admission?" Dot. 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 Seeing that they backed off, she stopped wasting time, and her gaze landed on Roya, the information broker. She leaned slightly forward, her tone firm but casual, like she wasn't asking at all. "Roya, I need a favor. The whole tensed. Roy blinked at her, unimpressed, then raised a single brow. Do you now? Yeah. Huda shrugged like it was no big deal. Don't let it slip that I'm here at the Holy Palace. No messages. No whispers. Nothing. Can you do that for me? Roy stared at her for a long, blank moment. She didn't ask what Huda planned or why she was being so bold. Instead, she kept her thoughts to herself, having them culminate into a single sentence. She really is a brat, asking for favors while giving nothing in return. After a beat, Roy sighed and gave a lazy nod. Fine. But not because you asked nicely. It's better this way for everyone. Can't have war when we've got no Sultan on the holy throne. Huda nodded, not even bothering to thank her, and of course, she wouldn't. Gratitude wasn't her style, especially not when this favor wasn't about her pride. She wasn't protecting herself, or it was about Al-Saif. She didn't want her people caught in the fallout of whatever she was about to do. And it was clear to everyone what that something was. Zafar was the first to frown, the most worried out of the group, though he expected more of the heroines to stutter on hating the villain. Damn it. This came out of left field. He seriously didn't expect such a blatant betrayal. She had to know that she was up against those of similar and higher divine rank. She had to know that disabling a 10th commandment was impossible, especially for someone who isn't even a Malay diaresis K. Its flaw wouldn't allow her to. The holy relic would bring death upon whoever tried to stop it from completely refining its prisoner into ether. Huda had to know that. She had to. So why do this? Why bring trouble to already troubled times? Was he someone that precious to her, even after all the evil he did? The hero's brown eyes darted to the massive owl, then back to Huda. Those questions. Emotions are confusing. He didn't know the answer to them. Zafar didn't say a word to her, but the tension in his shoulders spoke volumes. Huda, though, didn't leave him or the others guessing for long. I'm sure you all realize this already, but I'm here to get my big brother out of those damn chains. She pointed at the throne behind the projection where his body sat. He looked the same as he did for all those years, minus the chains. Of course, I'm going to save him from execution, no matter the cost. Her tone was almost matter-of-fact. Of course. Zafar's jaw tightened. A rebellion, an insurrection against me, the soon-to-be Sultan, and her first ally in this war. That towering, bright-eyed owl perched like a guardian behind her. But then, before anyone could follow up with what she announced, "Relax though." Huda raised a hand, palm up, as if signaling peace. "I'm not attacking." "Not yet." Zafar blinked, as did the group, caught off guard. "I'll wait," she continued, leaning casually against Crimson. "We'll hold off until more people join us. No sense in charging in and getting squashed like bugs. I know my limits." Her words were cool, but there was a fire in her eyes that no one missed. "Save the battle for later." The hall fell silent, her declaration hanging heavy in the air. Noor exchanged a glance with Roya and they shared a slow nod. "Are you doing this as the family head of Al-Saif, Huda? Or is this just you, a lone Magi, running on unfounded arrogance?" Huda didn't answer immediately. Her gaze flicked to Noor's, unflinching. She held it for a moment, then let a small smirk creep onto her lips. "Latter. This isn't about Al-Saif. This is me, alone." "Good. Because if you'd said otherwise, I'd have to ensure Al-Saif never recovered from the disgrace you're about to bring them." The casual venom in Noor's words didn't faze her. If anything, she seemed amused. "I'd expect nothing less, Your Highness." Noor's sharp gaze narrowed slightly at the title, but she didn't rise to the bait. "You're reckless. Always have been." "But this isn't just reckless. It's suicidal." Huda shrugged her shoulders. "Maybe, ... That's it." Roy, who had been silent, observing from the side, finally spoke up. "You know you're going up against a 10th commandment, right? And not just that the heroes with us. Though he isn't the sharpest stone in the pile, he more than makes up for it with his strength and extraordinary luck. The Holy Palace itself won't sit idle either. You will be humiliated, and it isn't something you could escape by dying. I know. My name will be smeared to oblivion." She tilted her head slightly at Huda's quick reply, studying her. "Then why?" She hesitated for the first time, her smirk fading just slightly. Because I owe him my life. Noor's brows rose ever so slightly. You're still on that? Owing and whatever? After everything he's done? Yes. Nothing has changed. I don't think you've forgotten that he stole half your family's treasury, killed your uncle, and massacred those you rule. I owe him. Noor's eyes softened slightly, and not with compassion, but with disappointment. You're throwing your life away. And for that? To save someone who doesn't deserve it. I owe him. How many times do I have to say it for you to understand? Huda, you can't be serious. I am. This isn't about what he's done. It's about doing what's right. At least for me. Roya sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. We'll kill you. Huda's smirk returned. If it comes to that, so be it. I wouldn't expect anything less from you two. As their death match of words came to an end, Saphira and Layla, who stayed quiet throughout, began to speak. We won't change our stance. We'll stay neutral. That was both a surprise and a heavy weight off Sapphire's shoulders. If their endless tears were any indication, he expected them to be next, boarding the insurrection train. But it appeared that though they deeply felt for him, they knew better than to bring him back into the world. Or perhaps they still couldn't let go of what he had done to their people. Layla's father was killed by him long before they married, and Saphira was abandoned. When they met again, he killed many of her clansmen and abandoned her a second time. So, if thought about in more depth, their decision was an expected one. Rather, if such things happened to anyone else, they would have acted even more extreme than Noor and Roya, demanding his head be on a spike. Their personalities and sheer love for him had brought them out of such a fate. Whether that was a good or bad thing had yet to be seen. The real surprise, though, came from Azim, who usually had something to say. This time he stayed silent, his gaze fixed on Huda, signs of a smile making their way to his lips. He seemed proud. Right, proud. It wasn't obvious for what exactly, but Huda was the object of that emotion. Not liking that look, Sapphire ended the silence, ignoring their comments about him. So what now? I say we wait. I know she'll change her mind. I agree. Noor followed with a slow nod. We'll wait. Roy chimed in, making sure she understood the obvious, but it don't think for a second this puts us on your side. Huda shook her head. Wouldn't dream of it. And that was that. For all their schemes, it seemed that laziness prevailed in the end. Their long age had dulled their sense of time, as it did their urgency. Sure, if Huda continued as she was and more Magi, for whatever asinine reason, began to join her fold, then their fight would result in a lot more trouble than now, but still, the end would not change. No matter how many they become, Malik, their Sultan, will die. Well, unless a god interfered, but that was impossible. Right? With their attention back on the projection, they watched as a hunched figure stumbled his way toward the cave. Unlike usual, this figure wasn't dignified, noble-looking, no, not even close. The dude was swaying like he was one step away from eating dirt, each step looking more like a suggestion than an actual decision. Fast, sure, but also clumsy, like he wasn't even sure where he was going, just that he had to keep moving. For a solid minute, no one said a word. Was it even him? Malik, their Sultan, the same man who sat on the throne like he owned the place? This wasn't him. Couldn't be. This guy was a broken bar, empty. Like someone had truly ripped out his soul and left the rest behind to rot. He just looked so wrecked, and the background wasn't helping his case. Just endless gray, all muted and lifeless. Almost as if the landscape itself had given up on trying. Man, even the world's in despair. No one laughed. They were too busy watching this hollow shell before them. It didn't take long for him to reach the cave. It housed the one who had once been a flicker of color in his bleak, miserable world. I'm back. But as he stepped inside, and Sophia came into view, he paused. He looked at her, or at least, what was supposed to be her. Tiny, childlike hands clutched at her skin, smothering her features and hiding everything except her eyes that wept streaks of red, dripping down her cheeks like fresh blood. Her body wasn't any better, a grotesque mockery of what it once was. It would contort in impossible ways and then return in the next moment like nothing had ever happened. Welcome back. Her voice was warped, too low and sluggish, as if echoing from underwater. "What?" Gasps rippled through the hall at that scene. "Are you saying this is how he sees the world?" "No fucking way." It's no wonder he frowned all the time. How did he even function? "These are broken bar. This is beyond just seeing things. This is a nightmare." In response to their words, the projection stuttered for a moment before a text box appeared at the bottom. Note: due to Malik's deteriorating mental state, the projection will adjust to ignore his passive hallucinations. Saturation levels, which are unnaturally muted, will be displayed as normal, and facial features, which are unrecognizable due to his inability to perceive them properly, will be simulated. The projection continued, showing Malik sitting against the cave wall, staring blankly at Sophia. "Where's Jasmine?" Malik didn't respond, his hand gripping his dagger's hilt tightly. His knuckles were white, his shoulders tense. "He's not even looking at her." "Could you?" The question isn't how he managed. It's why he didn't break sooner. "I don't think I'll ever complain about my life again." A chuckle resounded, humorless and bitter. "Yeah, no kidding. Imagine waking up every day to that." "Forget waking up. Imagine sleeping, knowing that's what you'll see tomorrow, too." The hall fell silent once more, Malik's reality pressing down on them all. Then, as if sensing the need to break the tension, Crimson let out a loud hoot. Huda scratched and patted its side. "Guess that's his way of saying, suck it up." A few weak laughs followed, but most still stared at the frozen projection, their thoughts far too heavy to voice. They weren't the only ones. Layla's hands trembled, her expression hardening, barely stopping the tears from flowing. Saphira, on the other hand, didn't bother to hide the tears that slipped down her cheeks. Neither said a word, but their unspoken thoughts filled the air. It made them forget anything else, even the massive owl right behind them. This wasn't just shocking, it was devastating. Because now they understood. Now they knew why Malik had never reacted to their beauty. Why he always seemed so broken bar distant, so blank. It didn't matter how they approached him, how earnestly they tried to connect. His responses were always the same, empty stares, devoid of warmth. It wasn't because Saphira was inadequate as a disciple or that Layla was lacking as his wife. No, it wasn't their failure. They were just a broken bar, unfortunate. Unfortunate to exist in a world where his heart had already been torn apart and buried with something or some Ionia they couldn't replace. And that hurt them far more than rejection ever could, because they had realized that they never had a chance in the first place. Inside the projection, Saphira stopped cultivating entirely. She just sat there, her hands resting limply on her knees, her eyes locked onto him. Her expression simply unreadable, a face unseen before now. "Teach, answer me. Did you kill her?" That image seemed to finally capture Malik's attention. His eyes shifted back towards her. He didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't shy away. He just looked. For a long, long time. "Yes." All of a sudden, his answer arrived, cold as stone. It wasn't an excuse. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't an explanation. It was just the truth, stripped of any pretense or emotion. As sharp as the dagger sheathed in his belt. It was as if showing any semblance of emotion here would ruin him. For a second, Saphira's expression faltered, her lips parting slightly like she wanted to say something or anything. But then, she just a broken bar didn't. "I see." And that was it. No tears, no anger, no accusations, just a simple flat acknowledgement. She then resumed her cultivation, acting as if the conversation never happened. The silence that followed was deafening. It spoke of their relationship and how fractured it had become. Neither knew what the other was thinking or feeling, and unfortunately for one of them, the other didn't seem to care. Not in the least. She's no child. Malik watched her for a moment longer, something flashing in his golden eyes. Maybe he expected more. Maybe he didn't. It didn't matter. He didn't ask her why she reacted that way. He knew that Sophia wasn't what she seemed. He had suspicions brewing long before today. This only cemented it. Sighing out loud, he rose to his feet and headed deeper into the cave. As he walked away, his shadow seemed to stretch behind him, covering Saphira. The little girl had yet to move. Her eyes stayed closed, her breathing even, her hands clasped tightly in her lap as if holding something fragile together. But beneath the surface here, beneath that perfect, stony exterior or it was a storm. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let herself cry. Not here. Not where he could see. Not where his dagger was in reach. She didn't want to know why he did it. Didn't want to ask, because if she did, and he told her that rather if he said it wasn't to save her but for something darker, something selfish, something unforgivably, then what? What would she do? He wouldn't lie. That much he knew. Malik didn't mince words, didn't sugarcoat, didn't spare anyone, not even her number, especially not her. And that terrified her, because if he really admitted the unspeakably broken bar, she didn't know if she'd have the strength to stop him, or worse, if she'd have the strength to leave him. So, Sapphira stayed silent. She didn't want answers, maybe not ever. It was easier this way, safer. Outside the projection. Those outside asked the obvious as soon as Sapphira's detached reaction played out. What the hell did he just Yup. And Lady Sapphira just Yup. Wait. What? That's it? She just let it go? That's all she had to say? No way. The noise was immediate yet muted. No one dared admonish the fairy to her face, so they kept low. A few debated amongst themselves, others scoffed, calling it cold, while her camp tried to rationalize her behavior. She's grieving. You can't expect someone to react to something that shocking. Grieving? Shocking? Do you really believe that all it was? Yeah. I don't think it's that simple. You could see it in her posture. She's conflicted. Lady Huda just didn't show it like most people do. Conflicted, sure, but what made her conflicted? Relief. Don't act like you didn't notice it. Heads turned toward the man. Some people exchanged wary glances, others nodded reluctantly. She did seem oddly calm about it. But why? Can't say. Maybe she was afraid she'd be left behind. Doesn't mean she's happy. Another countered. A twisted relief, maybe. But not happiness. I don't think anyone watching would honestly claim that she didn't love Jasmine. Still, though, it isn't just that. She's also scared of the Sultan. Exactly. What kind of man admits to killing someone like that? Zafar was the first to speak from the group near the front, using this random's words to pile on Malik like usual. What? Would you rather him lie? Azim, who had been casually sitting on the ground, straightened up. Is it only extreme ends with you? Can't he just sugarcoat it? Number. He already suspected Lady Sapphira to be abnormal. She was mature enough to know the truth. Besides, I don't think anyone in his place would have done it any better. I'd bet my entire wealth on you breaking down with just a fraction of what he went through. Mad at being cut off, Zafar ignored his response and continued, don't mistake it, everyone. The villain's displaying cold, not strength. There's a difference. And it's not something to be praised. Nor rolled her eyes, her regal demeanor somehow making even that look graceful. Oh, spare us the lecture. Hero, you're missing the point entirely. And what's the point, Empress? Zafar shot back, frustration clear. That she didn't leave. Her eyes, sharp and knowing, didn't leave the projection. Our fairy didn't run, didn't scream, didn't accuse. She stayed. That says more than you're giving her credit for. Or it says she was scared out of her mind. Zafar muttered under his breath, but he didn't push it further. He knew better than to show disrespect for someone he wished to court. Meanwhile, Huda was sprawled on the back of Crimson, head tilted as she watched the crowd's reactions with undisguised amusement. Man, you guys are dense. She's playing it smart. You think she'd actually start something now, when she's alone in that cave with him? PFFT. Roya shook her head. She's not wrong. Even back then, Sapphira had more sense than most. Though she was being complimented, the fairy was in a state near despair. Most of what they said about her was true, and that was what made it worse. Every word made her feel sick, like absolute trash. At that time, yeah, she was scared of him. Malik. He was terrifying. But that wasn't the real reason she was falling apart inside. It wasn't what made her so conflicted. No, the real reason? It centered around something else. Something entirely different. Jasmine. Those Magi were right about her. Completely right. Sapphira felt relieved by her death, and that's what had been eating her alive. It wasn't for the reasons they thought, though. She couldn't help it. She grew to love Malik to a ridiculous, unhealthy degree. Fascination, infatuation, obsession, or whatever you want to call it. She wasn't proud of it, but she couldn't stop it. either. She was consumed by him. Her entire world spun around him. It was ridiculous how fast it happened. One random day, she was just Sapphira, a random girl living a random life, in a random time, in a random place here, and then, poof, she ceased, thrown into this insane, foreign world in some girl's body. Her life got flipped upside down in the worst way possible. Sapphira had become a slave. Do you have any idea what that meant? To be a slave meant a broken bar. She was not a person anymore but a property. She was cast out from society. She was completely denied any honor. She was completely denied any personhood. She was perpetually and violently controlled. No rights, no dignity, no safety, nothing. The simple concept of owning was forbidden. Yet to survive, she needed coins, and she had nothing but her body to sell. But guess what? Even that she couldn't control, even that wasn't hers. Her own body wasn't hers. It belonged to them, her so-called masters. They took photos of her, humiliating, awful photos using a weird-looking holy relic, put them up for auction like she was some piece of meat, one sold to the highest bidder. By then, the slavers only needed to hide her and those with her until they could get the official paperwork done, make this transaction the least bit lawful. It wasn't going to take much longer before they were sent back out of Alfora and into the homes of filthy, creepy, disgusting, degenerate, depraved, despicable, pedophiles. Oh dear God, she couldn't even think about it. However, before that bleak future could take place, he showed up. Malik. He killed them. Every single one of them. Brutally, beautifully, one by one. And she watched it all. He was like these, a broken bar, this blinding light cutting through the darkness. A savior. A hero. A prince. No, a king in shining armor. How could she not admire him? It was only natural. What wasn't natural, however, was how those feelings evolved. They spiraled way too fast, turning into this all-consuming obsession she couldn't control. It didn't help that he was so damn kind, so good. When a chance for her to stay behind presented itself, she almost jumped in joy. You see, her gifting of the holy relic wasn't out of the kindness of her heart. She wanted to stay, be with him for a little longer. She wanted him to look at her, see her. And now, with Jasmine gone, a broken bar, she had him all to herself. No competition, no one else. It was perfect. Now she could make him hers, fix him, change him, maybe even shape him into someone entirely different, someone who could love her back, because Sapphira? She, a transmigrator, knew who Malik was, knew what he was supposed to become. How did she know? Not magic. Nothing fancy like that. It was way simpler. She read about him, in a novel. Yes, a novel. Yeah, she knew how insane that sounded. But it was true. This world? It was straight out of a book she read. And Malik, he was the villain. The man who painted rivers red with blood. It took her a while to realize at first, but eventually, it became obvious. Too obvious to miss. The villain matched too closely with the man before her. It had to be him. It would have been too coincidental otherwise. So, though she barely remembered the novel, she made it her mission to stop it, to change him. Did Jasmine have to die for that? Was she relieved when she did? Yes. And that was the part that dug into her heart. That relief, oh, it was disgusting. Every time she felt it, it ate at her. She hated herself for it. For being such a selfish bitch. Before, for an entirely different reason, and now, same thing. This word seemed like it'd haunt her for the rest of her life. Inside the projection, Malik sat in the middle of a sea of rotting corpses. Only a faint flicker of light reached him, but he didn't mind. Now, darkness felt more fitting. The weight in his chest hadn't eased. If anything, it had grown heavier. Jasmine's gone. Really gone. The thought killed him, but he didn't cry. This time, he was going to uphold his promise to Sinbad. But that wasn't the only thing he held back. Anger, rage, fury, the fire burning in his chest. Malik didn't do that to stay calm. He held back his emotions because he wanted to hold onto them. Let them shimmer within until the day they needed to be let out. The day he would judge Cyrus. Complete his revenge. For now, he'd settle them with a few words. Words of anguish that his guardian always sang to him. A twisted bedtime lullaby. If I tell the sorrows in my heart, a broken bar. His eyes closed, lashes trembling with the effort to hold back the flood. "It'll burn my tongue." His hands clenched into fists. "If I keep it in my heart a broken bar." He fluttered them open and glanced at the corpse beside him. Its face was half rotted, its identity long lost. "I'm afraid it'll burn me from the inside." He thought of the crimson owl, the way it had stared at him, the way it had helped him bury her, without asking for anything, without judgment, without pity. Was that thing even real? The corpse didn't answer his unspoken question. It didn't matter. Real or not, it hadn't changed anything. Jasmine was still gone. "But if I let it out a broken bar." His jaw tightened as he looked at his hands. For the 1000th time, he replayed it, the way her body had gone limp in them, the warmth leaving her as he held her close, the way she had smiled, the way she had thanked him, the way she had accepted her death. But he hadn't. "I fear it'll burn the whole world. I mourn the most for the things I never said. I'll keep this memory closely until I kiss it goodbye." "Little girl, a broken bar. Would you wash the blood from my hands?" "I won't see you again, a broken bar, so bury your scars deep. Let your tears fall where mine won't. Let them sink into me, so I never forget." "Malik." "What? Why? Why did you kill her?" She asked me to. "Why?" "She fell." "Fell? Fell where?" "Into depravity." Depravity. "Couldn't you save her?" "I tried really hard. I think." "Then there was nothing you could do." "Do you hate me for it?" "Why not?" "I just don't." "I killed her." "You did." "I buried her in the ground and walked away like it was nothing." "You did." "Why the hell don't you hate me?" "Because I know you, Teach, and I know you didn't have a choice." "You don't get it. You don't know what it's like to broken bar. To kill someone you care about." "No, I do." "What?" "Yeah, look." The end of the voices gave way to vision, and in that vision was a void. But not an empty one. Oh no, it wasn't empty. Two pale hands crept from nothingness, fingers too long, too elegant, flexed as though savoring the space. They reached out, first tentative, then greedy, wrapping themselves around his heart. The hands tightened, are not painful, not yet, but commanding, still beating. A voice purred from nowhere and everywhere at once, amused, almost playful. "How quaint." Malik tried to jerk back, but the void wasn't a place one could escape. It wasn't a room one could leave. It was just a broken bar, and so were the hands. One of the hands dragged a nail down the length of his heart. Not enough to cut, just enough to remind him it could. "Do you feel it?" It was closer now. Too close. That little drum in your chest. The one that says you're still alive, still breathing, still trying, still enduring. The hands tightened further, squeezing. And then it came, the teasing flicker of a promise of stillness, of quiet, of an end. True death, sweet, permanent. "I could stop it, you know. Make it all stop. The guilt, the memories, the screaming, the hallucinations. Wouldn't you like that? No more running, no more hurting, just silence." The hands clutched hard, bursting his heart into nothingness. "But not today." It cruelly chuckled, distant now. "This story is over, and I predict the end, a broken bar. You'll come back." "They always do." And just like that, the void snapped away. Outside the projection. What the fuck was that? No one answered. Not immediately. Anyway, "You are broken bar. Maybe it was just a nightmare." You know, guilt messing with his head or something. "Did that look like a normal nightmare to you?" The man shrank back. I mean a broken bar maybe. People dream weird stuff when they're going through it. And he's been through a lot." That was no normal nightmare. That was something else." "Like what?" I'm not sure." "No, say it." "If you've got a theory, spill." He hesitated, scratching the back of his neck. "Could be the one who cursed him. A maladiasis K. Or God forbid, a rook." "You know how it is, their mere existence messes with the Magi of the same path and divine law as them, corrupting their minds." "He's right." A scowler grunted. "You don't imagine something like that." "Not with that level of detail." "The Sultan's being corrupted." Inside the projection. Malik jolted awake, drenched in sweat, his chest heaving like he'd just run the Fuma hail. He blinked a few times, trying to shake off the lingering haze of whatever nightmare had gripped him. For a long moment, he didn't move. Just sat there, trying to steady his breathing. But then, he finally spoke. Goodbye. Another day had come and he needed to move on. Making yesterday out to be a forgotten hell, they continued like nothing happened. Malik sat cross-legged in front of Saphira, his posture unusually relaxed. He watched as she cultivated, her body encased in a golden cocoon of ether. Your flow's good, but your control is sloppy. Tighten it up. Focus on the core, not the edges. Saphira's eyes flicked open, shooting him a sharp look, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she adjusted her posture, shifting the ether flow as he suggested. The glow around her grew sharper, brighter. Better. He nodded. But don't rush it. You're trying to force too much at once. Let it come to you. Days passed like this, with him sitting nearby, giving her pointers as she cultivated. He didn't have to be there. She could have figured it out herself eventually, but he stayed. Whether out of habit, distraction, or a lingering sense of responsibility, even he wasn't sure. One early morning, as light began to visit the cave, Saphira broke the cycle, so broken but each. How do you fight like that? Malik raised an eyebrow. Like what? Like that. She motioned vaguely with her hands. All those moves, the counters, the footwork. Oh, it's got structure. Even I see that. So what's the deal? Is it some famous style shared between nobles? He leaned back against the wall. Are you fishing for tips or just curious? Both. All right. My old man taught me. Saphira blinked, caught off guard by his straightforward answer. She expected deflection, sarcasm, maybe even silence here, but not this. Still, she kept her expression neutral. Your dad taught you? Was he, like, a knight or something? Malik tilted his head as if considering the question. Guardian, not dad, but yeah. Something like that. He called it our broken bar something fancy. Never cared enough to remember the name. Outside the projection, no one spoke outside, too immersed to say anything of substance or simply too in their emotions to even think straight. But Noor was in neither category. Her thoughts ran a kilometer a second. So his guardian did teach him the royal sword style. Her theory about their relationship was starting to sound quite plausible. Why lie, though? Why not reveal a name? There's no way you don't remember it. What does it gain you? Or what is it you avoid? Inside the projection, Saphira rolled her eyes. That tracks. He didn't reply to her provocation. What? She hesitated for a moment before managing to ask, what happened to him? Malik's gaze shifted to the cave walls, away from hers. He's gone. His voice was so calm it was almost unsettling. Yet Saphira waited, sensing there was more. I killed him. Her breath hitched, but she quickly masked her reaction. Why? He shrugged. Had to. Do you regret it? That question came softly. No. I had to. This dialogue of theirs had more than one meaning, yet neither acknowledged that. I see. Will you visit him after we're out of here? I won't. Why not? There's nothing to visit. That answer brought her unending questions to a halt. But it was only momentary, as she quickly switched the subject. Then, what do you want to do up there? I want to kill a man. Surprised, Saphira raised a brow, slowing her cultivation a tad. Is he your archenemy or something? Malik nodded his head. I guess, I've got no enemies but him. And a few slavers. That's it. He also had thoughts of wanting to make the world a better place, but it was something that he doubted now, after what the world had put him through. Before she could ask another question, he abruptly stood up, brushing the dust off his pants. That enough story time for you, or do you want to pry some more? Saphira shook her head. No, I'm happy with that. Malik gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod, then walked toward the cave's entrance. The bright sky greeted him, and he stared at it for a long time, his hands behind his back. He tilted his head back, letting the cool air brush against his face. And sure enough, his mind wandered back to Jasmine, to Huda, to Sinbad, to his guardian, to the countless mistakes and losses that had led him here. If I could start over a broken bar maybe. The thought came unbidden and he quickly pushed it away. Even with this curse of his, there was no starting over, no erasing the past. All he could do was keep moving forward. The consolidation of Saphira's newfound power had reached an acceptable state, and Malik figured they had milked all the time they could afford. So they packed up a few essentials and started heading south again. Hours turned into days, days into weeks, weeks into months, all until time itself felt like some never-ending loop, something that he was quite used to by now. Wake up, move, kill the occasional monster, train, avoid the occasional seeker, camp, repeat. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. They simply trained every chance they got. If they weren't walking or fighting, they were cultivating. Malik barely slept anymore. His cultivation routine was practically meditative, healing his body and clearing his mind enough that he didn't need much rest. While not to the same intensity, Saphira went hard as well, lowering her sleeping hours a tad. Surprisingly, she didn't complain. Rather, she threw herself into it, biting off whatever bits and pieces of technique he fed her. And she was sharp, way sharper than her lazy, sarcastic front let on. Sure, she still tossed out a snarky comment here and there, usually right when Malik was hitting a flow and explaining something, but it was never mean-spirited. Just her way of keeping him on his toes. Stubborn, this one. You've got to twist your hips more when you're striking, he told her once while they were drilling punches. She mimicked the motion, twisting her body so dramatically that it almost looked like she was trying to snap herself in two. Like this. Oh great master? Should I add a spin for dramatic effect? Malik just stared at her, deadpan. You know what I mean? Oh, I do. Saphira grinned, going back to the proper technique without missing a beat. If that example served to show anything, it was that she was a pain sometimes. Most times, but he couldn't deny she learned fast. Too fast, maybe. For his part, he had to admit that he was getting into the whole teacher role more than he ever thought he would. It wasn't like he had planned to become someone's mentor when he went to kill those bastards, but her progress made it satisfying. Malik wasn't slacking either. His cultivation was progressing in steady, quiet intervals. It wasn't flashy like Saphira's progress in no big aha moments, but the man was slowly becoming a walking arsenal, his foundation becoming steadier by the day. Magi didn't survive long without learning a trick or 20, and he needed not only to live but also to thrive long if he wanted to fulfill any of his goals. Of course, ascending into a jinn would exceed such gains by 1,000-fold, but unfortunately, that wasn't possible out here, at least not to his knowledge. To become a jinn, a pure one, he had to perform the pilgrimage, Arbin, a long journey to the land in between, the land of forgotten borders, the true south, the valley of the unseen. Wadi al-Gaib. Life ceased to exist in this land known as the unknown's threshold, a place said to be neither here nor there, where reality itself thinned and jinns gathered to whisper. Malik didn't know much more about it. It was only mentioned a few times in Rafiq's grimoire. He knew the location, though, and that was enough. Everything else he'd learn on the way. All this he'd do was for one thing: Cyrus's death. His main goal. Even this, the teaching of his little student, helped in that. It was an opportunity for him to revise the basics, something he hadn't done in so long. The sparring too. It was half training, half therapy for them both. Saphira got to burn off her frustration from being unable to find a place in what remained of his little stone of a heart, although she'd never admitted it, and Malik got to let off steam in a way that didn't involve talking about his feelings. Win-win. Still, it was where he had to hold back a lot. The girl was no pushover, sure, but he wasn't about to go all out and break her bones with a flick. Even so, she got banged up. Malik made sure of that. Saphira needed to feel the pain of a real fight, the sting of getting hit, the humiliation of hitting the ground. Better to get bruised here than dead out there, he'd say every time she stumbled, clutching a fresh welt or wiping blood off her lip. Yeah, she'd mutter, irritated, but she always stood back up, always came at him again, stronger, faster, a little more calculated than before. It was working. One time, she actually managed to land a punch, a clean one, right to his ribs. But that wasn't during a spar. Right. She attacked him when he was deep in cultivation, the one time when he was most vulnerable. He barely felt it, and it didn't really count. But she lit up like she'd just felled a giant. I got you. Malik stood up, cracked his neck, and looked down. Congratulations. Now do it again. She didn't land another hit for a whole month after that. Their journey south took them through some truly unforgiving terrain. Al-Fara was not kind to travelers, not even its first lair. The closer they got to the south, The few landmarks they passed just cracked, parched earth stretching as far as their eyes could see, broken only by the occasional stubborn shrub or jagged outcrop of rock. But then, one day, the landscape slowly began to change. The hard, broken ground softened, and dunes began to rise in waves around them. At first, they were small, rolling hills of sand, but soon they grew, stretching into vast golden mountains that rippled under the shams. The heat was worse here, as the sand reflected the starlight like a mirror, making it feel like they were walking through an oven. So, this is it, huh? Sapphira squinted at the horizon, a scarf they'd borrowed from some random seeker wrapped tight around her head. The Great Southern Dunes. Alpha's Edge, real inviting place. You'll get used to it. Malik didn't sound particularly convincing. He was sweating just as much as she was. If I don't melt first. She kicked at the sand and watched it scatter. Is this stuff gonna be sticking to everything now? Yes. Malik was already resigned to the fact. Get used to that, too. She groaned but didn't complain further. They kept walking, their footprints quickly erased by the shifting sands behind them. It was almost poetic. Almost. They didn't get much further before he raised his hand, signaling her to stop. His eyes had caught something, a dark speck in the golden expanse to their right. What is it? She followed his gaze but saw nothing. A sign. He turned toward it, his steps cautious, and she reluctantly followed. As they got closer, the speck grew into a weathered wooden sign planted crookedly in the sand. The paint was peeling, the letters faded, but they were still legibly barely. Malik brushed off some of the dust clinging to the surface and leaned in to read, now able to somehow be warned. Her brows furrowed, and she stepped closer to listen. Sandworms populate the land behind this sign. He paused, glancing back at her. Her eyes widened. Sandworms do follow the sandwalk not to arise them. A drumming beat. There was a long, heavy silence after he finished. This is it. Malik muttered, more to himself than to her, his gaze lingering on the warning as if the words were etched into his soul. The beginning of the end. Wait, wait, wait. Sapphira took a step back, holding up her hands. Sandworms? Like a broken bar giant, man-eating, desert-dwelling worms? Yes. And you're just okay with that? Number. Malik turned to face her, his expression unreadable. But we don't have a choice. She opened her mouth to argue but stopped short, something in his eyes shutting her down. Stick close. He stepped back onto the path. Wait, what's the sandwalk? She called after him, scrambling to keep up. We'll see. Her stomach dropped. That was never a good answer. Once they got down the dune, still behind the sign, Malik scanned the distance, picking out a path. Behind him, Sapphira shielded her eyes from the sand's glare. And beyond this ice a broken bar. What? That airlift thing from the notes? Malik nodded. The book called it Zephyr's Ascension. Sounds fancy. Yeah, well, try to keep your complaints quiet, or you'll wake the worms. He walked ahead, passing the sign. Teacher, shut it and stay put. Sapphira frowned but didn't argue, crossing her arms as she watched him. She wasn't about to admit it out loud, but the mention of sandworms had her stomach flipping. Malik, on the other hand, seemed calmer, too calm for her liking. He moved forward, his steps slow. The phrase from the sign constantly repeated in his mind to a drumming beat. It was vague as hell, but he had to start somewhere. If he failed, well, there was always a next time. FFFSHHH. His boots hit the sand with a measured rhythm, heel to toe. Dum-dum-dum. He let his arms swing naturally, his shoulders loose, his breathing even. Dum-dum-dum. His body fell into a kind of flow, each step deliberate but not forced. Dum-dum-dum. The sand shifted under him, and he adjusted without breaking stride, his weight rolling smoothly from one foot to the next like water spilling from a jar, light enough that his steps barely left a mark. Dum-dum-dum. It was frustratingly effortless. Dum-dum-dum. Every now and then, he threw in a tiny bounce to his step, like he was mimicking the rhythm of a heartbeat, smooth, almost hypnotic. Dum-dum-dum. He went on like that for a while, weaving slightly as he went, his path curving just a little to keep his weight from pressing too hard in one spot. Dum-dum-dum. Was this it? The so-called sandwalk? Outside the projection. How the fuck did he manage it? 1 try? Apparently, It was inside the projection. Dum. It felt a broken bar right. Not perfect, but close enough. Dum. Malik nodded to himself, then turned back, retracing his route towards Saphira, his steps never breaking the rhythm. She was standing exactly where he'd left her, arms crossed and frowning at him like he'd just invented a new way to waste her time. Saphira had hated this sand walk almost immediately. This is dumb. Yeah, and that's why you're gonna die if you don't figure it out. Why can't we just, I don't know, walk like normal people? Because normal walking tells them that prey is here. Why? The sign says so. Maybe it's a pranker. Number. Your turn. She blinked. What? You're going to learn it? Right now? Right now? Her frown deepened. You want me to mimic it? He cut her off again. Step for step, follow the rhythm. A drumming beat. You're serious? Dead serious. Start walking. Saphira groaned but followed him back to the base of the dune. He didn't give her time to complain further, stepping beside her and pointing down at her feet. Heel to toe. Spread your weight evenly. Don't stomp. You want the sand to forget you were even here. Forget me? I'm not a ghost. He ignored her. Match my steps. Watch my arms. Your balance needs to shift with each step like you're flowing forward. She squinted at him, dubious. Flowing forward. Sure. Sounds easy. It's not. Now shut up and try. Saphira groaned but stepped forward, trying to copy the way he'd moved. It was clumsier, too stiff, too cautious. He stopped her after a few steps. Relax. You're overthinking it. Just her broken bar move. Keep it smooth. Let your body find the rhythm. Easier said than done. She took a breath and moved, planting her foot carefully. Immediately, the sand slid out from under her, and she stumbled, falling face first. Bar. Flipping to her back, she spat out some of the sand she accidentally swallowed and screamed, "This is impossible." It's not. Try again. Why don't you try being encouraging for once? Encouragement doesn't stop sandworms. Now focus. She gritted her teeth and tried again, mimicking the way his arms swayed and the deliberate placement of his feet. It wasn't nearly as smooth, and the sand still shifted quite heavily, but she managed a few steps before losing her balance again. Better. Keep going. Hours passed like this. Saphira stumbled, cursed, and grumbled, but each time, she got a little better. Malik watched her like a rock, correcting her movements, tweaking her rhythm, making her start over whenever she got it a slight bit wrong. Her frustration grew, but so did her determination. By the time the light started to fade, her steps were almost passable. One more time. She glared at him, sweat dripping down her face. You said that an hour ago. And I'll keep saying it until you get it right. Now go. She groaned again but obeyed, her steps falling into the familiar rhythm. This time, there was no awkwardness. Her movements were smooth, her body relaxed, her rhythm steady. Malik watched her for a moment, then nodded again. Good. That'll do. He finally called a halt, motioning for her to sit. She dropped onto the sand with a huff, wiping sweat from her brow. Finally. You're ready. I'll give you a minute then we'll move. Saphira pulled out her gourd, gulping down half the water, then stood up, joining his right. There's no need. Let's go. Malik looked at her for long, then nodded. Take this then. She cupped her hands and brought them forward. Goodies? Gimme, gimme. He grabbed the scrolls from his belt and gently pushed them into her palms, folding her fingers over them. Just in case you get lost. Her blue eyes slightly widened. But number. Take them. Okay. Seeing that he was not backing off, she shoved them in her belt. Stay calm and no matter what happens, don't panic. Please, I'm practically a sand ninja now. He just shook his head and started moving, taking the lead. She quickly followed, sand walking directly behind him. After that, neither said another word, focusing fully on their movements. The desert had gone silent alongside them, save for the rhythmic FFFSHHH of their footsteps. Saphira started nervous, nearly making mistakes due to just how tense she felt. But as time passed, her jitters started to fade. She still didn't trust this whole sandwalk nonsense, but she had to admit that it was better to be safe than sorry. Sandworms were quite scary after all. When she finally got fully used to it, a voice was heard in the silent desert. Hey, this isn't so bad. It was hers. Malik gave a non-committal grunt. His eyes stayed locked on the horizon, scanning for a broken bar something. Sapphira didn't want to ask what. She figured if it was important, he'd tell her. Probably. They kept moving, their rhythm steady, and she found herself falling into the flow, her body relaxing. But as night arrived and the heat drained from the air, struggle made its way back to her. Sapphira pulled her scarf tighter around her neck, shivering. Why does it have to get so damn cold? Malik didn't answer. He just kept walking, his steps as smooth as ever. Typical. Then the wind started. At first, it was just a whisper, brushing over the sand. But it grew, gaining strength with every gust. By the time they reached the base of a particularly steep dune, it was howling, whipping sand into their faces. Sapphira shielded her eyes, squinting up at Malik. This normal number. He scanned the horizon again, his jaw clenching. Storm's coming. Sapphira flinched. What kind of storm? The bad kind. Oh great. Fantastic. Sand began to swirl around them, a stinging chaos that made it almost impossible to see. Stay low. Follow my lead. She nodded at his command, or at least tried to but failed, ducking her head instead. They pressed on, and every step was a battle, one that they nearly lost. Wind tore at their clothes, threatening to knock them off balance at each change it got. Sapphira's feet slipped more than once, the shifting sands beneath her refusing to cooperate. This freaking sucks. Keep moving. And she did, because what else could she do? But the storm wasn't letting up. If anything, it was getting worse. Everything around them was trying to peel their skin off. Visibility dropped to nothing, and their nerves, especially hers, were fraying fast. Then, out of nowhere, tragedy struck. Thud. Sapphira fell. She hit the sand so hard, the impact sent vibrations rippling through the ground. Damn it! She hissed, scrambling to get back up. But just as she managed to put her feet down and take a step forward, her head smacked into something solid. Teach. Malik was frozen. His entire body was tense. Sapphira. I'm fine, I just start running. Now. She blinked. What? The ground beneath them trembled. Then, oomph. The sand exploded. A massive form burst from it, a writhing, monstrous thing that towered above a distant dune, its body a grotesque, coiling mass, its mouth a gaping maw lined with rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth. This was a sandworm. Huge didn't even begin to describe it. It was a broken bar. Horrifying. What the hell was that? Sapphira yelled, coughing as sand whipped around her face. Her eyes were wide, full of panic, but she couldn't see anything, barely even hear anything. Malik didn't answer right away. He stared at the approaching sandworm, feeling the tremors under his feet. The wind hit a dune hard, knocked its sand over. Nothing to worry about. Sapphira wasn't buying it. That's not just some wind, Malik. That had to be. Doesn't matter. He cut her off, grabbing her arm and pushing her in front of him. Now forget the damn walk. Just run. Sapphira tensed up even more, stunned by his sudden yell. Run where? Anywhere. Malik sounded desperate, a word she never expected him to be described as. But still. No. She didn't move. I'm not leaving you. He turned to her, locking eyes for what felt like an eternity, though it was only a second. The sandworm was closing in, the vibrations under their feet like a ticking clock. Fine. Then do one thing for me. What? We're gonna play a game. If you wanna win, all you gotta do is look forward and walk. What kind of stupid game is that? Malik, this is Nota. Don't argue, he snapped, cutting her off for a third time. You walk forward. Don't look back. Not even once. I'll be right behind you, I swear. Just don't look back, no matter what you hear. Got it? She hesitated, biting her lip. And if I win? Anything you want, he promised. You get one wish, whatever it is. Sapphira's face lit up, not with joy, but with determination. Fine. She nodded. It's a deal. Outside the projection. I knew it. Sapphira's sobbing voice came first, echoing through the silent hall. He was lying. Her tone dripped with frustration and something deeper, more bitter. He was lying. The word regret was not enough to describe it. The wind, a dune? Bullshit. I wasn't stupid. I could feel it, but knew I had to be greedy. The projection showed her face in sharp detail, sweat streaking through the sand caked on her skin. But even as panic danced in her gaze, she pushed forward with all that she had. so greedy to win that I lied to myself. Layla, her camp, and the crowd could hear her breaking down right in front of them. She, the fairy of Devil's Moor, looked to be in a state no different than the Huda of a few hours ago. Now knelt on the ground, hands trembling as they hit her face. I made it past the storm, and there, just at the edge, I waited. She sucked in a shaky breath, her shoulders shaking. I waited for hours, just standing there, watching. But I didn't see him. Layla moved before she even realized it, crouching down and wrapping an arm around Saphira's shoulders, holding her close. Even a few faraway passed by. Saphira barely reacted and just kept speaking, her voice a fractured thing. Asked me what I was doing. I told them I was waiting for him, and they. Her fingers curled against her face, her nails digging into her skin. They said. She stopped, choking on the words. They said that no one was there. That if I was waiting for someone. She let out a shuddering breath. They probably already left me behind. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. He what? He left her? What kind of teacher does that? Judging by their reactions, it appeared that Malik's betrayal towards Saphira wasn't that well known to the masses, which was to be expected, as her origin was kept on the down low too. Ugh, this is rich. Azim leaned forward, hands on his knees, his grin wide. The big bad Sultan just bailed. Guess those scrolls were to appease his guilt, huh? You're sick, Huda muttered, glaring at him. Hey, I didn't say it wasn't messed up. He shot back, raising his hands defensively. But come on, we all knew it was coming. Were you expecting a hallmark moment? Maybe he was injured. Surprising everyone, Zafar, who paced in tight circles, retorted. It seemed that out of all the people there, he was most scared of that trend repeating. So, to fight against it, he preemptively gave Malik an excuse in case this turned out to be another misunderstanding. It was somewhat of a smart tactic, as it would finally give his yes meant something new to praise about. I mean, he stayed behind to kill it. Why would he leave afterward? What would that gain her? My Sultan is a smart one, Azim interrupted. Zafar whipped around. Excuse me, you heard me. He continued, not bothering to look up. The Sultan might have protected her in the beginning only to end up overwhelmed, so he bolted, using her as bait. You can see it happening, can't you? But while those two spoke of betrayal, the woman herself stayed quiet, eyes on the projection. She didn't hear anything of what they said. She didn't even feel Layla's touch on her shoulder. There was only one thing on her mind. I wasn't running from it. I was running after him, like a damn fool. Inside the projection, Saphira turned, squaring her shoulders. Without another word, she started running, her feet kicking up sand as she fought against the wind. Malik watched her go, his heart heavy but his mind focused. He waited until she was a good distance ahead before turning to face the worm. The tremors were stronger now, the sandworm so close he could almost hear it cutting through the wind. With one hand tucked behind his back, Malik flicked his dagger free from its sheath. He gave it a casual twirl before holding it steady in front of him, the tip glinting. Scorched grace. His ether responded instantly, coursing through his veins, and breathed into the blade. Golden flames erupted along its edge, licking upward in a dance against the storm. The ground beneath him trembled like a drumbeat, rising to a crescendo. Oomph! Then, with another explosive burst of sand, the massive sandworm tore free of the earth, its gaping maw wide enough to swallow a house. You'll fall. Malik launched himself forward with a single step, clouds of sand spraying out in his wake. Just as his other foot touched the ground, he stood directly before the worm, and at that moment, it was almost upon him. It's more a mere meter away. Yet he didn't even flinch. Instead, he pivoted at the last second, the fire on his dagger flaring brighter. Using all his strength, he cut upward, shooting out a fiery blade of gold. The flames screamed, cleaving through flesh, bone, and sinew, splitting it from maw to tail. Then, an explosion erupted along its body, consuming it in a blinding wave of heat. Its massive carcass slammed into the sand, twitching for only a moment before going still. Hoof! Malik blew out a breath, spinning the dagger once before pointing it downward, the flames dimming to a faint glow. Not bad. Guess all those blinks paid off after all. But, unfortunately, his victory was cut short. The ground rumbled again harder this time. He froze, eyes narrowing at the sand around him, rippling like water. Ah no! Woo-oomph! An explosion of sand rolled through the desert as a sandworm burst from the dunes. Woo-oomph! 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 First one, then two, 5 Taina, each one massive, each one hungry, and somehow uglier than the last. You've gotta be kidding me. Malik slowly turned in place, his gaze darting from one worm to the next. They surrounded him in a wide circle, their movements disturbingly synchronized. All right. Rolling his shoulders a couple of times, he cracked his neck, a unique routine he did before any battle. If that's how you wanna play it. His other hand reached for his dagger and he held it up high with both. The blade responded instantly to his intent. Fine by me. His flames spiraled upward like a miniature inferno, a ferocity that made the air shimmer. I'll massacre the lot of you. The sandworms didn't waiter. They came at him all at once, a wall of teeth and death. It was a nightmarish charge, one that would have brought terror to the hearts of many men. Yet, again, Malik didn't even flinch in the face of it. The first worm arrived, flying through the air, and he ducked low, sliding under its shadow, his dagger raised to the sky. Flames roared, and his blade carved through its underbelly, gutting and cooking it alive. The beast collapsed dead just as it landed. He spun to face the next. The worm lunged like the one before, but not so far off the ground, forcing him to dart to the side. It hit nothing but sand, and he was already on it, leaping onto its back, digging his dagger into its thick hide. Boom! His flames exploded into it, sending chunks of burning flesh flying. In response, the worm thrashed wildly, but Malik held on, his feet planted firmly as he drove the blade deeper. Stay down. After another burst of fire, he yanked the dagger free and jumped, slicing it across its spine as it slithered underneath him. The worm died before it could even go past, twitching once and then going still. Woo-oomph! Woo-oomph! Two more came, side by side. Malik waited a beat, letting them close in, and then leapt straight at them. He landed directly on a worm's head, planting a boot deep in its flesh. Stepping off, he plunged his dagger into it on his way down, using gravity to slice it up. Flames exploded, melting the wounds, and it crashed into the sand, thrashing. Dead. Malik didn't pause. Before he could reach the ground, he flipped off its corpse, twisting midair. The other worm sliced through the air beneath him, smashing into its dead friend. Die. Still upside down, he stabbed his dagger towards the ground, shooting a piercing tongue of fire, tearing through its neck. The head dropped. The body followed. Woo-oomph! Another sandworm came from behind, lunging at him while he was still in the air. Not panicking in the slightest, he shot himself downwards, then sidestepped. As soon as he reached the ground and slashed upward in one smooth motion, the flames did the rest, slicing it clean in half. A beat passed and the ground shook harder. More worms. 5, no, 6, 7. Seriously? Malik shouted. This shit a family reunion? 4 of them circled him. Their massive bodies rippled, moving in sync. One worm lunged from his left, but he was already moving. He slid under it, spinning around to drive his dagger into the side of its neck. Fire erupted again, and its head snapped to the side as it crumpled to the ground. Another worm came at him from behind. Without looking, he spun on his heel, his dagger trailing a fiery arc through the air. The flame shot out, cutting clean through the beast's mouth, splitting it in half before it could near him. Woo-oomph! Then the third. He jumped above it, ran along its stupidly long body, his dagger tearing through it, and dropped behind it, knowing of its death. Woo-oomph! The fourth came right after. He flipped over its head, landing on it. A quick stab to the skull and flames burst like fireworks. The fifth came fast. Too fast. Not caring for its friend's life, Malik ran atop the fourth and barely threw himself out of the way, landing in a roll. Seeing that he was down, the sixth rushed toward him, taking the opportunity it was presented. Its maw was upon him in moments, about to swallow him whole. He was going to die. But he didn't look panicked, not in the least. Still on the ground, he thrust his dagger upward, straight into its mouth, the tip of the blade touching one of its many teeth. Whoosh or boom. The explosive impact pushed him out of death's path while at the same time, his fire found its way down its throat, blowing it apart from the inside. Hooah! Still standing, letting out a rough breath, he stood up, panting as he watched the last two rush towards him, towering over him, their shadow swallowing him whole. Slowly, Malik raised his dagger, flames spiraling up, fall. Both worms lunged. He charged. Fire met flesh. Sand exploded everywhere. A moment passed, and when the dust settled, God damn it, Malik stood alone. The two sandworms had collapsed behind him. He was heaving hard, much of his ether already spent. Exhausted for sure, but still, he had won. Victory was his. Malik, though only for a moment. Pulling him out of it was Saphira's scream, which sounded worried to a point way beyond normal, especially for her. Slowly, he turned, his teeth clenched, and sprinted in her direction. Oomph! A sandworm erupted from the ground in his path. It's more wide and welcoming. Ain't got the time for you. Without hesitation, he slashed upward, shooting out a blade of fire that sliced it in half. He continued to run forward, going in between its flesh, not wanting to waste a single fraction. What's wrong? Malik yelled as he reached her, his voice barely audible over the storm. Are you there? I'm here. Anything wrong? No, be Buta. He grabbed her shoulder for a split second before pushing her forward. Then don't stop. Just keep going. Oh okay. She nodded, her fear barely contained, and resumed running ahead. Malik watched her silhouette disappear into the storm before turning back to face his next opponent. This time the sandworms reached a count higher than 10. They sure were relentless. Thankfully, they seemed to not have much interest in Saphira, enabling him to focus on one thing and one thing alone. Annihilating them. He didn't care for why exactly, but it was a pretty obvious guess. Her less than ideal ether core was simply too weak for consumption. They wanted something with more juice, and he, as mentioned by Cyrus, had a lot of that. Like the average seeker to the owls back in Althor, he was a delicacy to these worms. They came at him in waves, their massive bodies tearing through dunes and carcasses alike. Malik's dagger was starting to crack as he shot out one flame after another, tiny chunks of the blade crumbling away. It was a day and night difference compared to what happened with his Shamshur, as he had improved his control by leaps and bounds since then, but it still wasn't good enough to where no damage would reach the blade. For that, he needed his ether to become fully compatible with his weapon, a technique he had no inkling of how to perform. So, he had no choice but to get up close and personal, using his fire only for concentrated attacks where the least amount of his ether would be spent, in turn reducing its impact on his blade. It was a dance, yet it wasn't pretty. Not even close. Cuts and bruises decorated his body due to the many close calls he had endured. Sweat mixed with sand, stinging every open wound, and his steps started to falter. He wasn't as quick as he had been 10 minutes ago or even 2 minutes ago. The exhaustion was creeping in, slowing him down. And the sandworms? They noticed. One came barreling toward him, inches away from swallowing him whole. But before it could, he rolled out of its path and slashed upward, sending a streak of fire straight through its hide. The worm's head was cut off clean. Come on. You want me? Then come get me. He heaved heavily as he got back into his stance, eyes scanning for the others through the storm. Before he could get to one of them, though. Malik. Another scream from Saphira cut through the storm. Fucker, not now. He cursed under his breath and sprinted toward her voice. Blood dripped from a gash on his side, and his legs felt like lead, but he pushed forward. When he reached her, she was huddled behind a dune, her face pale and her hands trembling. Malik. I'm here. He kneeled beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder, not allowing her to turn around. You're okay. You're okay. I can't. She started, but he cut her off. You can. You're almost there. Just a little further, Saphira. Go. Now. Please. Saphira hesitated, her eyes searching his face. Go. He shoved her forward before she could and stepped back, returning to his battlefield. After a few minutes, this repeated a broken bar once, twice, thrice, becoming a cycle. Malik would kill the sandworms, then rush to Saphira whenever she called out, only to dive back into the fray. Every clash tore him apart a little more. New cuts, new bruises, new blood painting the sand. His ether core was running on fumes, nearly turning him hollow, the fire in his dagger flickering like a dying candle. The blade barely held together, cracks spreading like spider webs, one good hit away from shattering. But, of course, he didn't stop, couldn't stop. Every worm he killed, every step forward, was another inch closer to getting Saphira out of this nightmare. And then it happened. He made a mistake. His focus was elsewhere, allowing a sandworm to get close unnoticed. Oomph! It flew out of the ground behind him, just shy of his back. At the last possible moment, he dove out of the way, hitting the sand hard. He'd barely avoided getting swallowed whole. Gasping, Malik staggered to his feet, only to freeze. In the direction he now faced, 12 more could be seen. 12 massive sandworms, all closing in like vultures on a corpse. His hands trembled as he glanced at his dagger. The fire was nearly gone, just a faint, pitiful flicker, and the blade was done for, cracks zigzagging across its surface. He'd lost. This was it. No way out. Malik would have to try again. He raised his dagger to his neck, about to blink. But then, something caught his eye, just between a few distant dunes. There it was. The edge of the storm, a land untouched by sand. A land touched by humanity, its ground stone, its trees, buildings, and its hill. A miracle. Here was Zephyr's ascension, a natural airlift that connected all of Alfora's layers, a vent of ether into the outside world, beyond the moor. Malik barely saw a glimpse of Saphira's silhouette stumble forward, entering that land. He felt relief flooding his chest. She made it. Those words were almost lost in the chaos around him. Finally, she was safe. Finally, that's it. He almost laughed. It's done. His job was over. Malik turned, ready to follow her, to leave this cursed desert behind. FFFSHHH. And yet, just before he could, the ground shifted beneath him. A chain of sand erupted, wrapping tight around his ankle like a snake. He stumbled as it yanked him to the ground, his dagger slipping from his grasp. The sand hit hard, the air leaving his lungs in a sharp gasp. A go! Exclamation mark. Pain shot through him, but something else froze him and his grunt in place. A presence. No, multiple presences, one's too strong for this place. Something about them seemed to have calmed the storm a little, shooing away the worms. Malik looked up, his vision blurring from heat, pain, blood loss, and exhaustion. Through the swirling sand, he saw them, cloaked figures. 10 of them. They moved as a unit, the sand parting around them like it feared to touch them. Once they got close, he noticed that their robes bore a title he knew all too well. The faraway. Of course, a bitter laugh escaped his lips. Just my luck. The lead figure stepped forward, his face partially obscured by the cloth wrapping his head, leaving only cold eyes visible. Malik, you stand accused of grave transgressions against the laws that safeguard the sanctity of the Marquess and its holy kingdom. By the decree of the faraway, you are hereby bound to answer for your deeds, for murder most heinous, for the ruin of that which was not yours to later waste, and for defying the will of the divine order itself. The words struck like hammer blows, echoing in his ears. And then, everything paused. The storm faded. The sound of the desert vanished. Or rather, it wasn't that time itself that paused, but the projection did. Slowly, it faded to black, and a text obvious to all on the outside was displayed. Will resume shortly. End of Volume 2, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Would you like a short break? Your life's second volume, For Whom the Bells Tolls, has concluded. A beat. Yes. Ding. That stupid, familiar sound repeated, reenacting his first break. What followed was the script, right in his mind's eye, taking over everything. Felicitations. Gratulera. Herzlichen Glückwunsch. Quanch. Parabe tilde copyright NS. Fifth 3/4 eth middle dot eth and eth degrees eth squared eth and tilde NZ. Gratulek. FA tilde copyright licitations. C Sedilla Yerni apostrophe superscript O. 8 tilde SA tilde A tilde section A tilde diaresis A tilde A tilde A tilde A tilde A tilde 3/4 A tilde DM I circumflex pound I diaresis dot I circumflex cubed I diaresis I circumflex plus minus I diaresis I circumflex middle dot I diaresis I circumflex registered I diaresis I circumflex superscript 1 I circumflex plus minus CHA superscript OC MARNG, Tilik, a inverted exclamation mark in Harabuna. Mazeltov. U grave. O diaresis O section O plus minus UF. Badai ho, ostitamo. Gratulate tilde inverted exclamation mark look. 8 tilde nitlist. Upsveikam. Tarnaya. Congratulations. Sure. With that, Malik was a soul again, floating high above his body. Everything was the same. Or so he thought at first. He could feel it. His soul was stronger. It was like he was being rebuilt from scratch. Before he started all this, he was mortal, no different than any other dreg you could find in the streets. But after the first volume, he had ascended, becoming a Magi. Now, with the second volume over, he was an Al-Safe, just like the Malik of so long ago. It seemed that the divine rank of his soul aligned with his memories. Going up as it did. He was nearing his goal of escape, and it wouldn't take much longer. 9 days of suffering in the real world and a couple of 100 years in the projection. Not too much of a price for freedom, right? Well, he'd actually say so. Malik completely stood by that. After all, to him, freedom was priceless. The fact that it was achievable was enough to keep going. In other times, he would have smiled at the news, knowing that he wasn't being cheated. Happy that his suffering wasn't useless, that it wasn't only for her entertainment. And yet, right now he was as blank as a stone. While he had become Malik and Malik had become him, this embodiment was still affecting him quite a lot at that. Sure, though it wasn't at the level of the previous Malik, he too began to see things, illusions of the mind. The crowd underneath him wasn't just a crowd. They'd glitch out, show themselves as things they were not, things that he had no words to describe. It wasn't all bad, however. A massive creature near the front took most of his attention. Oh, the owl. His soul-bound pet and lifelong companion. He looked so bright, so beautiful, so fluffy. It was technically the first time they met, but Malik had missed him so damn much. Seeing him still alive almost brought tears to his eyes. Almost. The owl's company soured his mood. Though Huda, that brat, not deserving even a feather on its body, was leaning on it. Who the fuck does she think she is? If he could, he'd get back in his body, break those chains, and start beating the shit out of her with them as weapons. But, of course, even if he could, the other half of him that still loved her would stop him from doing so. It was who he was now. A walking, breathing, living contradiction. Shaking his head, he looked back at the crowd. Most of them left. Did they get bored or something? Shrugging, he turned towards the projection. No. Rather, to his body. And you? Why were the memories that you gave me incomplete? He wasn't talking to himself but to the previous Malik. Falling into depravity. Corruption. Only now do I understand it. After Jasmine. Her fall. Still, not everything is clear. There are gaps. I can see them now. Malik could see it. As obvious as the 12 moons in the night sky. All memories related to corruption were locked, as if time-gated. He'd need to reach that point in his memories to fully remember them. Why? There had to be a reason, right? And, as anyone would expect, there was. A pretty obvious one. Just as his divine rank increased the more he embodied, his knowledge did so as well. That kept him alive. Malik shouldn't be directly exposed to anything too far beyond his divine rank or any knowledge, technique, or even event. Mere words relating to such things would corrupt his soul, never mind entire memories. Of course, that wasn't only applicable to him. It applied to all of humankind. Eventually, every mortal or low-ranking Magi on Devil's Maw would end up corrupted. The planet will be overrun. They will die. Roya had doomed herself and everyone around her without even knowing it. Or, his system might just skip those scenes, censor the knowledge. The latter made a lot more sense when the system's creator was considered. Lady of Time. Would the death of all Black Eyes benefit her? He didn't think so, and there was no way she'd do anything just because. Beings like her, who ascended their way into godhood, were too calculative for that. Of course, there'd be outliers even within their fold, but from what he saw of her so far, she was not one of them. Shit is never simple, huh? Letting out a non-existent sigh, he closed his eyes shut. Whatever happened here was none of his business. If they died by hands other than his own, maybe his soul wouldn't force him to cry to death. purpose array diaresis H. Note: going back now would mean you'd stay in the void for a little while, unable to listen or see the outside world. Is that acceptable? Raising a brow, he waved away the script. Why? It came back. The third volume is being prepared. It can't resume until it reaches a perfect standard. He rolled his eyes, not caring for whatever hidden meaning was behind those words. I don't care. Just let me rest for a bit. Understood. His world went dark. Unknowing of his struggle, the hall remained quiet, stuck in position as if their time was as frozen as the projection. Almost everyone had a guess or two about what was going to happen, believing themselves to be smart. But this, it came out of left field. So unexpected that half of the crowd's jaws had hit the floor. Sure, it ended in the same result, a misunderstanding, a lie that they were made to believe. One which technically resulted in their guess being a correct one, but the method of reaching that end differed completely. Malik didn't abandon her. He wasn't too injured to move, and he didn't get lost. It was way simpler than that. Wake ruler. It just stunned them. 1 second they were celebrating his success, and the next, this. Whatever this was. Though, as was expected, not all the Magi felt the same. A hardened group was more interested in the incredible feat they just witnessed, not his arrest. Did he just break some record? Yeah, he did. That was what? 50 worms? 52, someone corrected, voice dripping with awe. He didn't even slow down in the storm. Did you see that move? He flipped over one, stabbed the other midair, then rolled like it was nothing. And that blade, oh man, the dagger was singing. It was this close. Ate a full fusion with his scorched grace or whatever he called it. Close? Are you blind? The Sultan was practically there. He only needed someone to nudge him an inch in the right direction. Yeah. The blade was crying out for a proper sink. His stamina was surprising too. How is he even standing after all that? I swear, you can't compare any other safe with him. Man's built different. He's powering up fast. Too fast. It's insane. But then the faraway had to show up. A random interrupted their parade bitterly. Talk about timing. They didn't even wait for him to catch his breath. Yeah, what the fuck was that? He just saved here a Lady Sapphira and now this? It's straight up bullshit. That's what it is. Who even snitched on him? Doesn't matter. You heard those accusations. Murder? Ruin? Defying the divine order? He'll be in the dungeon for long. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. The slave trade wasn't banned back then, but still, the way they went at it was unethical, to say the least. They had it coming. Sorry guys, whether you like it or not, his actions were against the law. Whatever man, he's been through enough already. When's he gonna catch a break? When the world stops screwing him over, that's when. And Lady Sapphira? What now that we've found out the truth? That brought a pause, their eyes glancing at the group up front. They couldn't see what was happening over there as Sapphira's camp surrounded her like earlier, ensuring privacy, but they didn't really need to. Anyone could guess by now that her appearance was a miserable one. Yeah, knowing the truth after so long must hurt, especially after throwing around those accusations. Can you blame her? Another voice chimed in, quieter this time. She thought he abandoned her, left her to die out there in that storm. She didn't see the worms or what he did for her. How could she? She was too busy fighting for her life. Exactly, he was protecting her the whole damn time. She just a broken bar didn't know. It's just unfortunate. All her life she thought he was some backstabbing bastard when the truth couldn't be further from that. And now, when she knows, it's already too late. The Sultan is gone. While that group reached a silence that was too heavy to be broken, another grew interested in the title drop. Did you catch that? For whom the bell tolls. Yeah, what's up with that? This 10 commandment picked an easy one last time. I don't get this one. It's weird. It's not weird. It's poetic. Another chimed in, arms crossed. There's a deeper meaning to it. Deeper meaning? Huh? Like what? The Sultan cultivated. Killed a monkey, cultivated again, let its family go, killed more monkeys, killed slavers, rescued slaves, taught, killed a rock, lost a little sister who crushed on him, taught again, killed sandworms, saved Lady Sapphira, and then got arrested. What's a bell got to do with any of that? It's not about the bell itself, Genius. It's a metaphor. You know, like how church bells ring when someone dies or when judgment's coming. Okay, but why call it that? He's not dead yet, and the faraway showing up wasn't exactly divine judgment. I think it's more straightforward. The bell tolls for everyone. Nobody escapes it. Yeah, okay, I get that, but still, what's this a Ten Commandment trying to say? Think about it. A middle-aged man replied, leaning forward while stroking his beard. The Sultan killed slavers, right? Scum who deserved it. But the law doesn't care about who they were or what they did. It only cares about the act. Killing's killing. The bell tolls for everyone, even them. A murmur rippled through the group as the realization sank in. That's a broken bar. Harsh, but true. The law doesn't pick sides. Doesn't matter if you're a hero or a villain. When it's your time to answer for what you've done, you answer. Still feels wrong, though. A woman spoke softly. He saved slaves. Our Lady Sapphira. He did the right thing. And now he's the one getting judged. Where's the justice in that? The old man smiled. Maybe that's the point. Justice isn't perfect. It's blind. Meanwhile, the one who kept coming up in conversations, Sapphira. She just stood there, staring. Her whole body felt like it wasn't hers anymore, like she'd been transmigrated a second time. No, this isn't real. It can't be real. But it was. No matter how much she wished that it wasn't, it was as real as the divine and as fake as the promises men made in its name. Nobody could deny it. Nobody. Not even her own mind. It was the truth, plain and simple. HHK. Her breath hitched, a choked sound breaking from her throat. This before her was her teacher, shackled like a criminal, a goddamn animal. And why? Because he saved her. The price of her freedom was his own. But if he hadn't a broken bar, if he hadn't done what he did, she'd be. No. Sapphira shuddered so hard she almost collapsed, barely able to stay on her feet. But that wasn't because she had strength in her legs. No, they had given out completely. It was Layla. Before she could face plant, she was there, catching her, keeping her upright, letting her lean on her, carrying more than just physical weight. A broken bar. Sapphira's hands gripped Layla's dress like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart completely. He didn't leave me a broken bar. The words came out barely above a whisper. He never left me a broken bar. Her vision blurred, and the flood returned hot, endless while sobs shook her whole body. She could barely breathe. It hurt. All this time. She thought he had abandoned her. Thought he had just disappeared, leaving her alone in that nightmare. But he hadn't. He couldn't. They had taken him from her, stole him away and left her with nothing but a lie. Why? A broken wail tore out of her throat, and she buried her face in Layla's dress. It was too much. Sapphira, the warmth, tears, not of her own, trailed her cheek. It was Layla's. Her arms wrapping tighter around her. You didn't know a broken bar. You weren't supposed to know a broken bar. You were just a key to broken bar. Sapphira's sobs came harder, messier. She wanted to scream, to rage, to undo it all. But all she could do was cry, drowning in the truths she had spent centuries never knowing. That relief that she felt twice was nothing but a farce. There was nothing to feel relieved about. She didn't turn him into the bloodthirsty Sultan. Bullshit. Like Huda, she completely believed in a lie and blamed him for it throughout his entire life. When they met again, she didn't just forget to thank him. She acted like he had betrayed her. Betray her. That didn't stop at just being ungrateful. She was a dog, a bitch that bit the hand that fed her. Hey. Watching them, Huda showed a soft smile, a few of her tears leaving her. She knew exactly what Sapphira was feeling, having gone through it only hours ago. It was something that she didn't even begin to process, a tragedy that would stay with her till her last breath. Yet, even that time wasn't given to Sapphira. The world shook. Boom. The holy palace, as big as a town, trembled in its entirety, an explosion ripping through it. The ground beneath them lurched, dust and shattered stone raining down from above. The walls groaned, and before anyone could even process what was happening, a boom, more, closer, louder, shoved gently by Crimson. Huda was the first to snap out of it. We're under attack, she shouted, wiping away her tears, and shoving her right hand in the left sleeve. Pulling it out, A short sword adorned her grip. Get ready. Not one Magi showed a face of panic. Smart or dumb as they were, these Magi were guards, warriors, knights, priests, inquisitors, seekers, professors, caliphs, family heads, princes, princesses, kings, and queens. Shahs of every walk of life. They all knew war enough not to disgrace themselves before their leaders. Form a perimeter. Protect the sanctum. Noor was barking orders while Zafar stood tall in the front, hands glowing with ether, eyes scanning for the enemy who would dare attack the holy palace. The echoes of chaos filled the hall until they didn't, because the broken bar footsteps, lone, steady footsteps, echoing through the broken silence. Click-clack, click-clack, click-clack. The crowd hesitated, weapons half-raised, glancing at each other in confusion. The explosions had stopped, yet here came a broken bar, someone walking alone. The steps drew closer, unhurried, like they had all the time in the world. And then a man appeared. He stepped into the hall, his clothes dusted with ash, his expression unreadable. He wasn't injured, wasn't afraid. He just a broken bar stood there, letting the tension stretch until it was unbearable. They're dead. His voice was flat. All of them. The words cut through the hall like a blade. What? Zafar stepped forward, fists clenched. Who's dead? The guards. The man shook his head. Some idiot playing merchant handed out extra cores to them. Buy one get one free type of deal. More power. Free time, they thought. But, surprising all of us, their bodies couldn't handle the surge. And so broken bar. He gestured vaguely behind him. Boom. Dot. 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 Silence. A broken bar? That doesn't make sense. Noor frowned, turning to Roya. They were trained enough to mimic the technique. Right, they should have been fine, Zafar murmured, following her gaze. But they weren't. The man then added, doing the same, and I think you all know why. Slowly, every head in the hall turned. Where? To Roya. She was frozen, eyes locked on something none of them could see. Her body was slightly tense, as if listening to a voice just beyond their reach. Then she shuddered. A broken bar? It's not just them. A chill swept through the hall. Tens. Maybe even hundreds. Thea. She sucked in a breath. They're all dead. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. But how? Didn't you say that the technique had succeeded? Did you lie to us? Roya lifted her gaze, and the look in her eyes sent a shiver down spines. The technique. Her voice was hoarse, distant. It works. But it only works for those of lower rank, a broken bar below jinn, or those who use weak cores, lacking in ether. At those words, a terrible realization dawned. These deaths, all of them, could have been avoided so easily. Everyone there without exception had overlooked something obvious. Of course the details of the technique would differ with stronger cores. Just how? How could they miss something so damn obvious? Was SHE that affected by Malik's memories? Neither she nor they wanted the answer to that question. They'd rather forget that any of this had ever happened. And that was what they proceeded to do. The void stretched endlessly, and I floated, weightless, directionless. I did the only thing I could: think, lose myself in what I could only describe as my mind. To me, life was, is, and will always be brilliant, beautiful. It enchanted us to the point of obsession, like some magician pulling tricks that left you hooked, desperate to see the next one. The next day, even here, surrounded by nothingness, I felt its pull. But why? A broken bar going where? What am I even holding on to? I couldn't say. Some were true to their purpose, though they were but shells, flesh and mind, nothing more. I wonder, was I any different? Was I true to my purpose, or was I just another empty vessel, drifting, pretending it all had meaning? I often thought of the man who lost his body, but lingered on as a head. A grotesque existence. He had no arms to grasp, no legs to walk, no heart to beat. And yet, he lived. If you could call it that. What a life, right? Barely scraping by, but for what? What kept him going? Was it sheer will, some stubborn instinct to cling to what little remained? Or was it just fear, of the same primal terror that drove all things to keep moving, even when there was nowhere left to go? Could that even be called survival? Or was he just proof that existence didn't need purpose, only persistence. And if that were true, what would that say about me? Again, I could not say. What about those who chased love? Were they any different? The ones endlessly drawn to something they could never truly hold? Always chasing, never finding. I used to think love was the answer, but now, for the third time, I could not say. I didn't even know what I was chasing. Light banished dark, and all that stemmed from humanity. It had left them incomplete, imperfect. Men assumed a fleeting form, fragile, and unconnected to the cosmic truth. These were the roots of our world. Our hotpot of chaos and order, of life and death, of ruin and rebirth, of endless war and fleeting peace, of dying embers and undying shadows, of a God who turned his back on men, and men who raged against their fate, of cursed wisdom, of truths too heavy to bear, knowledge that corroded the soul, of blessed ignorance, the mercy of not knowing, the peace of blind faith. One a burden, the other a shackle. Neither truly free, a fire stolen and chains reforged, a cycle neither broken nor complete. A world never meant to be fair, never meant to be kind, only real. It made us who we were and who we weren't. So what was it that drove me? What was it that drove anyone? We returned to the beginning. I was stuck, going in circles. More so as time went by. I felt like I was becoming someone else's puppet, moving to their strings, walking a path that wasn't mine, following a script I never wrote. Was that my fate? To exist as a prop on someone else's stage, a nobody? A medium in which a story inched to its finale, a cog in the machine, turning, replacing, repeating across this life and the last? If not, then what else was there? It was all I ever knew. What could I do to escape that? Could I even escape it? The void didn't answer. I didn't answer. I just keep turning the questions over and over in my mind. And maybe that was the truth of it all. No matter how tender, how exquisite, how convincing the story, I was starting to think it was all a lie. And no matter what I told myself, no matter how much I wanted to believe otherwise, a broken bar, a lie will always be a lie. For a story built on a false purpose could never truly go on. Faraway Diaresis H. Volume 3, When the Sparrow Falls.